Yeah, that appears, Bev, to be the idea behind China's claims that the US, since the beginning of 2022, on at least 10 occasions, flew high-altitude airships or balloons in Chinese airspace. We're getting a very small level of detail from China's government about those alleged incursions. In fact, we're getting basically no details. So this was interesting when the US National Security White House spokesman John Kirby was asked about this. And he was saying there have been no US balloon flights in Chinese airspace. A reporter was pushing him, saying, yeah, but what about, South China Sea or Taiwan, airspace which the US and many others regard as international waters, but the Chinese regard as their territory. And he just said there have been no flights in Chinese airspace. So that almost hinted, I don't know, but maybe it hinted that, yes, there have been US balloon or airship operations over international waters, and China perhaps is being a little bit shifty on the detail, because if they reveal that it was actually not over Chinese airspace but what they claim as Chinese airspace, it wouldn't seem to be quite as egregious as the Chinese surveillance balloon over the US. The problem, Bev, is this is all speculation, because Beijing is giving nowhere near the level of detail that the US authorities gave about the Chinese balloon in recent weeks.
And do you think, Bill, China is going to back off from using this kind of surveillance technique now that it's been uncovered?
I don't know, because China, the US, probably some other countries have invested significant resources into high-altitude balloon or airship technology. We have seen some good reporting by the New York Times this week, deep diving into some of the characters behind China's high-altitude balloon programs, their involvement, for example, with institutes like Beijing University in Beijing. So it doesn't appear that suddenly all these efforts that have been going on for years are going to cease because of one rather large diplomatic incident. But of course, this will be something interesting to monitor in the next few months, because the American authorities are saying they've been tweaking various radar settings so that they are more actively on alert for aerial objects in their airspace. They've detected 3 other things in recent days they've shot down, and they're still yet to clarify what exactly those objects are. So you'd think if China was to send a so-called civilian research balloon over to the United States again, it would probably be detected. We'll have to watch this space, Bev.
Yeah, indeed. At the same time, you've got these allegations from the Philippines Coast Guard that once again China is really pushing the boundaries with regard to some of the disputed territory. What happened?
Yeah, so there was an incident, Bev, earlier this month, February the 6th, in the South China Sea, around the Second Thomas Shoal. This is a reef less than 200 kilometres off the west coast of the Philippines, the island of Palawan, and it is occupied by the Philippines, but only just. They crashed this rusty old ship into the reef many decades ago, and a small rotating crew of soldiers have been based on it ever since as a way to try and press their claim. But there was a standoff when a Philippines Coast Guard ship tried to resupply those soldiers, and a Chinese Coast Guard ship intercepted their mission, and there was a back and forth on the radio, according to the Philippines authorities, with the Chinese saying this is Chinese sovereign waters, get out of here. Philippines Coast Guard was probably saying something to the contrary. And what we've seen video of, released by the Philippines Coast Guard, is the Chinese crew shining a military-grade laser at the crew on board the Philippines ship. And they say that it caused temporary blindness to the crew, but more than anything, it's an aggressive act. So we now have a formal protest by Manila about that Chinese action. This isn't particularly new, Bev. That Second Thomas Shoal has, for many, many years now, been subject to the Chinese patrols trying to stop the Filipinos from getting in there and resupplying their men. But this looks like a little bit of an escalation. And one of the things that the Philippines government has said is that this incident came only weeks after their president, Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., went to Beijing, met with Xi Jinping, and the two of them agreed to settle their disputes on the South China Sea amicably. So then within basically days of that meeting, you then have a Chinese crew pointing this military-grade laser at the Philippines crew. You can see, Bev, that this is causing significant anger in Manila, but this is not a new issue. This is just a continuation, perhaps an escalation of an issue that's been going for years.
Yeah, but one to watch indeed. Good to talk, Bill. Thanks so much.
Thanks.